The rain hammered the roof like it was trying to drown out the lie I'd been living for years. I stood there in the dim garage light, my hands slick with motor oil, staring at David, my stepson, all grown up at 22, his flannel shirt soaked through, clinging to the lean lines of his body as he wiped grease from his forehead with the back of his hand. "James," he said, his voice cracking like thunder. "I can't pretend anymore. I love you. Not like a dad, but like this." And before I could choke out a denial, he closed the gap between us, his lips brushing mine in a kiss that tasted of salt and secrets, shattering everything I thought I knew about family. That moment replayed in my head 1,000 times, but started months earlier, back when the cracks in our lives were just hairline fractures, invisible until the pressure built too high. Seattle's endless gray skies mirrored the fog in my mind, the kind that settles in after a divorce and never quite lifts. I'd married David's mom, Sarah, 12 years ago, right after she fled her first husband, David's biological dad, a deadbeat who vanished like smoke when David was 10. Sarah was my high school sweetheart, the girl who'd slipped me notes in algebra class, and when she showed up on my doorstep in Tacoma with a wide-eyed kid in tow, I didn't hesitate. I loved her enough to build a life around the three of us, even if it meant folding David into the role of son without ever adopting him officially. "You're his family now," Sarah would say, her hand squeezing mine over dinner plates of salmon and wild rice, staples of our Pacific Northwest routine. But Sarah got sick 2 years ago, ovarian cancer, aggressive and unforgiving. She fought like hell, chemo turning her into a ghost of herself. But by last spring, the doctor said it was time for hospice. David and I were her rocks, tag-teaming night shifts in our cozy craftsman house on Queen and Hill, the one with the creaky porch swing and views of Puget Sound that made you believe in second chances. We'd whisper stories to her in the dim light of her bedroom, David reading from her favorite Vonnegut novels while I held her hand, tracing the veins that mapped out our shared history. When she slipped away on a Tuesday morning in May, the sun breaking through clouds for the first time in weeks, it felt like the universe mocking us. Funeral was small, close friends, a scattering of ashes off Alki Beach, where we'd picnicked as a family. David and I stood there in silence, waves lapping at our boots, and I clapped a hand on his shoulder, murmuring, "We're in this together. Kid, kid." That's what I called him, even though he towered over me now at 6'2", with the broad shoulders of a rower from his college crew team at UW. David had Sarah's dark curls and my stubborn jawline, a genetic mashup that always made strangers do a double take. He was studying environmental science, passionate about salmon runs and climate models, the kind of guy who volunteered at cleanup sites along the Duwamish River. Me, I was the steady one, 45, a project manager for Boeing, crunching numbers on 737 fuselages, coming home to microwave burritos and Netflix. Our grief bound us tighter than blood ever could. Nights blurred into shared silences over takeout pho from the spot on Pike Street, or hikes up to Discovery Park where we'd sit on driftwood logs, staring at the Olympics across the water, not saying much but feeling everything. It was one of those hikes, 3 months after Sarah's death, that the first fracture showed. We'd crested the bluff trail, sweat-soaked and breathless, when David stopped short, his backpack slung low. "Dad, James," he corrected himself, the word hanging awkward between us. "You ever think about dating again? Mom wouldn't want you." Alone, his eyes, that piercing hazel like Sarah's, flicked away to the horizon, cheeks flushing under the salt-stiff stubble. I laughed it off, punching his arm lightly. "Plenty of time for that. Right now, it's you and me against the world, right?" He nodded, but there was a shadow in his smile, something unspoken that made my gut twist. I chalked it up to his own loneliness. He'd broken up with his girlfriend of 2 years right before Sarah's diagnosis. Some med student named Lena who'd bailed when the caregiving got too real. People suck sometimes, he'd muttered that night, cracking open a Rainier beer on the back deck. And I'd clinked my bottle against his, toasting to better days. Better days came in fits and starts. Fall semester kicked off, and David threw himself into classes, interning at a nonprofit fighting oil spills in the Sound. I buried myself in work, late nights at the Everett plant, but home was our anchor. We'd cook together, me manning the grill for cedar plank salmon, him chopping kale for salads with those feta crumbles he loved. Conversations flowed easy, his rants on corporate greed, my stories from the assembly line about the old-timers who'd unionized in the 70s. One evening, as steam rose from our plates in the kitchen lit by Edison bulbs, he reached across the table, his fingers brushing mine as he passed the salt. The touch lingered a beat too long. Electric, and I pulled back like I'd been burned, mumbling about a deadline. He didn't notice or pretended not to, but that night, alone in my bed with the ceiling fan whirring, I replayed it, wondering why my pulse raced like a teenager's. Winter hit Seattle hard that year, relentless downpours turning streets into rivers. My truck, a '98 Tacoma I'd babied since college, finally gave up the ghost one December night on I-5, sputtering to a halt in the HOV lane during rush hour. I called David from the shoulder, rain pelting my hoodie, horns blaring like accusations. Hang tight, James. I'll be there in 20. True to his word. He pulled up in his beat-up Subaru, wipers slapping furiously, and we towed the truck to our garage, a detached shed-out back crammed with tools and Sarah's old gardening pots. It was past 10 when we finally cracked into it, the space lit by a single hanging bulb that swung like a pendulum, casting long shadows. David was in his element, sleeves rolled up, grease smudging his forearms as he diagnosed the fuel pump. Classic sign, intermittent stall. We'll swap it out tomorrow if you want. But tonight, let's just get you home. I wave him off, stubborn as ever. Nah, we're fixing it now. Team effort. That's when the real storm hit, not the rain outside, but the one brewing inside me. We'd been at it for an hour, tools clattering, when he cursed under his breath, dropping a wrench on his boot. Shit, sorry. He hopped, more embarrassed than hurt, and I knelt to check, my hand on his ankle. You good? Our eyes met in the low light, inches apart, and time stretched thin. His breath hitched, and before I could stand, he steadied himself by gripping my shoulder, fingers digging in just enough to send a jolt through me. We finished the job in silence, the pump humming back to life with a satisfying click. But as we wiped down, side by side at the workbench, the air thickened. David turned to me, rag in hand, his face unreadable. James, there's something I need to say. My heart thudded, that earlier touch echoing. What is it? Kid. He set the rag down, deliberate, and stepped closer, the scent of oil and his cedar cologne mixing like a confession. These past months, being here with you, it's made me realize things. About me. About us. His voice trembled, vulnerability cracking through the calm he'd worn like armor. I froze, 1,000 warnings flashing. This is your stepson. He's grieving. You're twice his age. What the hell are you thinking? But the word stuck, and then he said it. That line that's haunted me since. I can't pretend anymore. I love you. Not like a dad, but like this. His kiss was tentative at first, lips soft and searching, tasting of the mint gum he chewed when nervous. Panic surged. I should push him away, end this madness, but my body betrayed me. Hands rising to his arms, holding rather than shoving. It lasted seconds, maybe 10, before reality crashed in. I broke it, staggering back against the truck fender, breath ragged. David, no. God, no, this isn't. We can't. His face crumbled, eyes wide with a mix of hope and horror. Why not? Mom's gone, and I see how you look at me sometimes. Like you feel it too. I shook my head, denial bitter on my tongue. I'm your dad, David. Step or not. That's what I am. It's grief talking. It's wrong. He recoiled like I'd slapped him, grabbing his jacket from the hook. Wrong? Or just scary because it's real? The door slammed behind him, rain swallowing his footsteps, leaving me alone with the echo of his confession and the ghost of that kiss. I didn't sleep that night. Paced the living room, floorboards groaning under my socks, staring at family photos on the mantel, Sarah beaming at David's high school graduation, me hoisting him on my shoulders at his 8th birthday Mariners game. What kind of monster was I? Entertaining this even for a heartbeat? By dawn, resolve hardened, we'd talk it out, set boundaries, get him into therapy if needed. Grief counseling for both of us, I'd suggest it gently, frame it as healing. But when David stumbled down for coffee at noon, eyes bloodshot, mug trembling in his grip, he beat me to it. Last night. Forget it. Heat of the moment. Won't happen again. His tone was flat, rehearsed, like he'd scripted it in the mirror. Relief washed over me, mingled with an ache I couldn't name. Good? We're good. Then, we nodded, the lie settling like fog, and life limped on. But secrets fester in the damp of Seattle winters. David pulled away, late nights at the library, weekends crashing at a buddy's in Capitol Hill. I'd catch glimpses of him on Instagram, stories of dive bars and bonfires on Golden Gardens Beach, laughing with friends who looked too much like the guys he'd hook up with in whispers I'd overheard back in high school. He was gay, had come out to Sarah and me at 17, a quiet admission over ice cream at Molly Moon's. Vanilla bean melting on cones, as he said. It's who I am, and I hope that's okay. We'd hugged him fierce, Sarah tearing up, me cracking a dad joke about rainbows over the Space Needle. But now, that history twisted everything. Was this crush born from isolation, or had it simmered longer? Unnoticed under my nose, January brought a brutal cold snap, pipes freezing in the walls. I called a plumber, but David insisted on helping, hauling in space heaters and insulating the crawl space like it was a mission. We worked in tandem, him flashlight in teeth, me feeding pipe wrap, the air thick with dust and unspoken words. Midway through, he emerged coughing, smudged with grime, and our hands brushed again, innocent this time, but loaded. Thanks for this, I said, voice rough. He met my gaze. Steady. Always. James. Family. Right? The word hung, barbed, and I wondered if we'd ever reclaim its innocence. Weeks blurred. Valentine's Day loomed. A cruel joke, and I buried myself in overtime, avoiding the heart-shaped balloons at Safeway. David, though, surprised me with tickets to a Blazers game, courtside, his internship splurge. Thought we could use a night out, he said, sheepish grin cracking his reserve. Portland was a 2-hour drive, wipers swiping at flurries, classic rock on the radio, Springsteen crooning about highways and heartbreak. The game was electric, Damian Lillard sinking threes like poetry, the crowd roaring in that visceral Pacific Northwest way. Halftime found us at the concession stand, beers in hand, when a guy from David's crew team clapped his back, tall, blonde, all-American, named Tyler. Dude, missed you at the after-party last week. Bring this one next time. Tyler winked at me, oblivious, and David flushed, muttering, nah, James is more fun. But later, in a car ride home, silence stretched until he blurted, Tyler's just a friend. Don't read into it. I didn't, or tried not to. But doubt crept in, a slow poison. Was he rebounding, using me as a safe harbor while chasing others? Or worse, was I the one projecting my own loneliness, twisting admiration into something forbidden? I'd never questioned my straightness. Sarah was my everything. Women before her casual flings in my 20s. But David's presence stirred things, the way his laugh lit rooms, his quiet intensity during arguments about politics, his hand steadying me after a nightmare about Sarah. It terrified me. This gray area, the fear that I wasn't as settled as I'd thought. The breaking point came in February, a Friday night, storm ripping through the city. Power flickered out at 8, plunging the house into darkness. Candles guttered on the coffee table, casting shadows that danced like accusations. David and I hunkered in the living room. Board game half forgotten, Monopoly, of all things, hotels on boardwalk mocking our stalled lives. Thunder boomed, and he jumped, spilling his hot cocoa. Easy, I said, grabbing a towel, dabbing at his jeans. Our knees touched on the rug, and the air charged, heavy as the ozone outside. He didn't pull away. James. I lied that night in the garage. I haven't forgotten. Can't. His voice was raw, eyes searching mine in the candlelight. Tell me you don't feel it too, and I'll stop. I'll move out, get my own place. But don't lie to me. My throat closed. The truth clawed up, yes. I felt it, a pull like gravity, terrifying in its depth. But the cost? Society's judgment. Our shared grief weaponized into scandal. The betrayal of Sarah's memory. David, you're everything to me. But this, it destroys us. Tears tracked his cheeks. Silent. Or it saves us. He leaned in, and I met him halfway. The kiss deeper this time. Hands in hair. Hearts pounding in sync. It was surrender. Sweet and damning. Rain lashing windows like applause. We didn't go further. Boundaries held. Barely, but that night unlocked the floodgates. Stolen touches in the kitchen. Late night talks on the porch swing about fears and dreams. David confessed he'd loved me since 16. Idolization blooming into desire during Sarah's illness. When I become his world, I admitted the confusion, the guilt, how his strength mirrored Sarah's, pulling me in. It was messy, human, therapy sessions at a queer-friendly clinic in Fremont, where a counselor, a no-nonsense dyke named Carla, unpacked the power dynamics, the ethics of step relationships. Consent is key, she said, and so is time. You're not breaking rules if you're both adults choosing this. But conflict brewed beyond our walls. Tyler, it turned out, wasn't just a friend. David had been seeing him casually, a distraction from the garage fallout. And when Tyler showed up at our door one March evening, drunk, belligerent, yelling about stealing his guy, the facade cracked wide. What the fuck? David? Hooking up with your stepdad? That's some Jerry Springer shit. Neighbors peeked from curtains. Whispers rippling like aftershocks. David shoved him back. Voice steel, get out. It's none of your business. But the damage was done. Texts from friends. Sarah's sister calling in tears. How could you dishonor her like this? I wanted to vanish. The scandal a noose tightening around our fragile hope. The high tide of betrayal hit in April. I found David's phone buzzing on the counter. Screen unlocked. A message from Tyler. Tell your daddy hi. Missed that tight ass. When you ditching the Oedipus crap? Rage boiled. Hot and irrational. Was this all a game? David toying with my heart while chasing validation elsewhere? Confrontation exploded in the kitchen. plates shattering like our illusions. Is this what I am to you? A kink? A way to rebel? He denied it, tears streaming, but the seed of doubt festered. I stormed out, driving aimlessly through Ballard, ending up at a dive bar where old Boeing buddies nursed IPAs. Family drama, I muttered when they pried, but one, Mike, a grizzled vet with a gay son, saw through it. Whatever it is, man, own it or lose it. Life's too short for half-truths. Clarity came on a solo hike up Rattlesnake Ledge, wildflowers nodding in the wind, the valley sprawling like possibility. I loved him, not as a son, but as a partner, flawed and fierce. The age gap, the step title, society's baggage, not ours, but trust that needed rebuilding. Back home, David waited on the steps, face drawn. I ended it with Tyler months ago. That text. I blocked him, but it slipped through. Proof on his phone, deleted threads, and suddenly, the misunderstanding dissolved into sobs, arms wrapping tight. I choose you, he whispered. Every damn time, summer unfurled. Tentative. We navigated public discretion, hand-holding in hidden parks, dates at quiet bistros in Georgetown, while building private strength. Pride Month in Capitol Hill was a revelation, rainbow flags snapping in the breeze. David's hand in mine amid the throng. Unashamed. Carla nodded approval in session. You're pioneers in your own story. Yet shadows lingered, my fear of judgment at work, his anxiety over family estrangement. Sarah's sister warmed slowly. A tentative coffee invite hinting at forgiveness. The unexpected twist, the one that stunned me deepest, came in August, during a weekend getaway to the San Juans. We'd rented a cabin on Orcas Island, ferries slicing through fog-shrouded waters, kayaks strapped to the roof. It was meant as reset, but unpacking David's duffel, a small velvet box tumbled out. Inside, 2 silver bands, etched with coordinates of Alki Beach, our scattering site. Not marriage. Not yet, he said, kneeling on the pine floorboards, voice steady despite the tremor. But a promise. To us. If you'll have me. Tears blur my vision. The weight of it crashing, this boy who'd lost everything, offering forever. I pulled him up, slipping a ring on his finger, mine matching. Yes. God, yes. We made love that night, not rushed, but reverent, bodies mapping new territories under quilted stars. It was healing, the ultimate defiance of loss. Back in Seattle, life wove forward, his graduation, my promotion, holidays with a patchwork family that grew to include Carla and a few bold allies. Betrayals faded. Conflicts forged us stronger, understanding that love, in all its forms, defies neat labels. Looking back, that garage kiss was the spark. But the fire? It burned through us, purifying. David's my partner now, my equal, the man who sees me whole. And in the quiet moments, rain pattering our roof, I know, we didn't just survive. We bloomed. Wait, no. That's the end? No. The story arcs deeper. Because what came next tested every vow we'd whispered in that cabin. September brought David's job offer, a dream gig with the EPA in D.C., analyzing Chesapeake Bay restoration. The kind of role that screamed future. We celebrated with dim sum in the ID. Pork buns steaming between us. But his eyes held a storm. It's East Coast. James. 3,000 miles. The fork paused midair. Reality biting harder than sriracha. I'd known it was coming, his passion for policy. The internships stacking like dominoes, but hearing it voice crack something vital. We'll figure it out, I said, forcing optimism. But inside, panic clawed, Long distance at our age. With our history, a recipe for fracture. He flew out for interviews. A week in October that stretched eternal. Texts pinged. Miss your coffee breath, or DC. Traffic makes Seattle look zen, but calls grew sparse. His voice edged with exhaustion. I threw myself into Boeing's latest crunch. 787 delays, turning nights into marathons. But home echoed empty. David's flannel draped over the armchair like a ghost. Sarah's absence had been a void. This was sharper, laced with choice. On his last night, FaceTime flickering, he dropped the bomb. They want me. Start in January. Silence hummed. Pixels blurring tears. Proud of you. I managed. Always. But as the screen went dark, doubt whispered, is this the out you needed? The step, too heavy to carry across states? He returned changed, buzz cut from a bet. Suitcases stuffed with East Coast swag, but a hesitance in his step. We made love that night, urgent and anchoring, but morning brought the talk. Kitchen island, mugs steaming. He laid it out. Come with me. Or visits every month. But DC's not the end. It's a launch. My gut twisted. Roots in Seattle ran deep. Mom in Bellevue. Boeing pinch invested. The house Sarah and I picked for its rose bushes. Uproot at 46. For a love still tender. Unproven? I need time, I said, hating the cowardice. He nodded. Jaw tight. Don't take too long. Opportunities wait for no one. November elections loomed. The country fracturing along red-blue lines, mirroring our rift. David dove into canvassing, knocking doors in Rainier Valley for progressive candidates. His fire for justice undimmed. I tag along sometimes, handing flyers in the chill. But tension simmered, snaps over nothing, like whose turn to load the dishwasher. One night, after a rally in California Anderson Park, chants of love is love ringing ironic. We argued in the car. You're scared, he accused. Dashboard lights carving shadows on his face. Of what? Losing the normal life you built? I slammed on brakes at a light. Horn blaring. Normal? Try surviving whispers at work. Your aunt calling us unnatural. This isn't fairy tale, it's fight. He softened. Hand on my thigh. Then fight with me. Not against. The misunderstanding peaked mid-month. A text from an unknown number. Hey, David. It's Lena. Old-time sake. Coffee while I'm in town. Lena, his ex. The one who'd ghosted during chemo. Jealousy flared irrational. Was he reaching back? Seeking easier paths? I confronted him at dinner. Pad thai cooling untouched. Who's Lena texting you? His fork clattered. What? She messaged once. I said no. Jesus. James. After everything. Hurt flashed. Raw. Feels like you're half out already. DC. Old flames. Am I just the interim? He stood, chair scraping. Interim? You're my everything. But if you don't trust me. Door schlemm. Footsteps fading to his room. I sat there, shame burning, realizing my fear wasn't him leaving, it was me, unworthy of holding on. Reconciliation came halting. A rainy dawn walk along the Burke-Gilman Trail. Leaves sodden underfoot. I'm terrified, I admitted, breath fogging. Of failing you like I couldn't save Sarah. He stopped, turning me to face him, rain beating on lashes. You didn't fail her. You loved her through. Same as us. We kissed there, public and defiant. A jogger glancing, but not stopping. Trust rebuilt brick by brick. Couples counseling via Zoom with Carla, who challenged. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's the glue. Thanksgiving tested it. We drove to Mom's in Bellevue. Turkey brining, but en route. David got the call, offer finalized. Relocation package gleaming. Mom, ever the pragmatist, pulled me aside in her galley kitchen. Pie crust flaking. He's good for you. Jimmy. Don't let fear clip those wings. Dinner was a minefield. David's charm winning her over with tales of bayou cleanups. But my brother's offhand jab, East Coast? Careful. They got those fancy queers out there. Landed like shrapnel. David stiffened, but I jumped in. Family's family. Mark. Blood or chosen. Laughter diffused it. But later, washing dishes, Mom whispered, proud of the man you're becoming. For him, December dawned crisp. Christmas lights twinkling on rooftops like promises. We decked the house, David untangling strands on a ladder, me handing ornaments of Sarah's blown glass. Each a memory turned talisman. But the decision loomed, a sword over our idol. New Year's Eve, we hosted a small bash, crew teammates, Boeing pals, Carla with her wife. Fireworks popped over the sound. But as midnight struck, David pulled me to the deck, rings glinting. Decide with me? Cold air bit, but his warmth anchored. I quit Boeing today, I said, the words freeing. Remote consulting will make it work. DC, here we come. His whoop echoed. Kiss fierce under bursting skies. The move was chaos. U-Haul rumbling east on I-90. Playlists of Nirvana and Fleetwood Mac. Pit stops at diners for hash browns and heart-to-hearts. DC. Hit like a fever hustle of metro crowds. Cherry blossoms dormant, but hinting spring. David's apartment in DuPont Circle became ours. Exposed brick and bay windows overlooking rainbow crosswalks. My consulting gig flexed. Boeing ties intact via VPN. But adjustment chafed, traffic snarls. Humidity that curled David's hair into frizz. My homesickness for evergreens. Early bumps. He worked late. EPA happy hours blending into policy wonks. I'd scroll Zillow for Seattle escapes, wondering if we jumped too soon. A fight erupted over Easter, his family brunch invite ignored. My resentment spilling. You drag me across country, then leave me solo. He fired back. I'm building our future, give it time. Door slam redux. But morning brought coffee in bed. Apology notes on Post-its, you're my North Star. The real storm brewed in May. A callback to betrayal sting. Tyler resurfaced, not in person, but viral, a podcast clip David shared. Tyler out as bi, crediting a complicated love for his journey. Listeners dissected, some praising, others vilifying predatory dynamics. Our names stayed pseudonyms. But paranoia gripped. What if Boeing hears? What if Mom's bridge club gossips? David downplayed. Old news, but I spiraled. Nights pacing the fire escape. City hum mocking my unrest. Crisis peaked at a gala. EPA fundraiser at the Smithsonian. Black tie swirl of diplomats and donors. David, sharp and tux, networked like a pro, but I hovered, outsider in khakis. A silver-haired donor cornered him. Voice oily, young man like you. With that. Arrangement? Careful. Optics matter in D.C. David's laugh was ice. But later, in a cab, he shattered. Am I ruining you? The spotlight. Maybe we tone it down. My heart ached. His sacrifice. My drag. No. We amplify. Fuck optics. Their resolve forged our steel. Summer brought triumphs. David's paper on wetland restoration published in Nature. My consulting contract expanded to NOAA. We hosted barbecues on the roof. Ribs smoking. Inviting allies. A queer couple from his office. My virtual Boeing crew on Zoom. Pride in D.C. was electric. Parades thumping with Gaga remixes. Our hands linked amid floats and flags. Yet the deepest cut lingered, a letter from Sarah's sister, forwarded from Seattle. Heard about D.C. Happy for you both? Time heals. But memories, they twist. Enclosed. A photo. Sarah. David. Me at Christmas. Joy frozen. Tears came, joint, as we framed it by the bed. She'd want this, David murmured. Us. Whole. By fall. Roots took, kayaking the Potomac. Fall foliage rivaling New England's blaze. The unexpected? David's proposal redux. This time official, courthouse wedding. Witnesses Carla, flown in, and a barista who'd comped our lattes. Vows exchanged under marble arches. Rings renewed, in grief and grace. I choose you. Honeymoon? A road trip back west. Tracing I-90 reverse. Reclaiming the miles. Now, as winter whispers in, snow dusting the monuments, I look at David, curled on the couch, laptop glowing with grant proposals, and marvel. The stunned silence of that garage, it birthed this, a love defying labels, weathering storms. We're not perfect, arguments flare, doubts whisper, but in the quiet, we're home. And that's the romance, not fireworks, but the steady burn, illuminating the dark. But steady burns flicker too, and ours nearly guttered in the spring of 2026. David's EPA role intensified, fieldwork to Louisiana marshes, weeks away monitoring oil spill aftermaths. I'd hold down the fort, consulting calls from our kitchen table, but isolation gnawed. DC's queer scene tempted, apps buzzing with invites to rooftop mixers, profiles of guys my age, silver foxes with bios promising no drama, just dates. I swiped idly one tipsy night, wine from a Virginia vineyard loosening inhibitions, but deleted before replies landed. Guilt followed, sharp as regret. Was this payback for Lena's ghost? Or proof our cross-country leap strained the seams? David returned tanned and tired. Stories of pelicans and pipelines spilling over gumbo dinners. But sensing my drift, he probed gently, rough solo. I deflected with jokes about beltway bureaucracy, but tension coiled. May brought his birthday, 30, a milestone laced with what-ifs about kids. Legacies. We celebrated at a speakeasy in Shaw. Jazz humming low. But midway, an ex of his, Mark, a lobbyist with a jawline like a Marvel hero, sidled up. David, and partner, the word landed awkward. Mark's eyes appraising. Conversation flowed, easy, too easy. Mark regaling with tales of Senate soirees. David laughed genuine, hand on my knee under the table. But jealousy simmered, Mark's ease, his world without our baggage. Ride home was silent, until I cracked. Old flame? David sighed, cab lights strobing. College hookup. Ancient history. But the seed sprouted doubt. Was I the safe choice? The stepdad anchor holding him from brighter orbits? Next week, over falafel in Adams Morgan. It erupted. You flirted back, I accused. Irrational. Flirted? I shut it down. His fork stabbed a pickle. But you love the attention, the validation without the mess of us. Hurt flashed. Defensive. Mess? Try the world judging every glance. I'm fighting for this. Same as you. He stood, tray rattling. Then stopped fighting me. Space followed, him crashing at a co-worker's, me drowning in work. Carla mediated via video. Triggers. Boys. James. Your fear's valid, society's cruel. David. Reassure without resentment. Reconnection brewed at the tidal basin. Cherry blossoms shedding like confetti. A picnic of strawberries and truths. I choose messy you, he said. Petals in hair. Every time, forgiveness tasted sweet, but scars lingered. Reminders to nurture the flame. Summer scorched D.C. Heat waves warping the air. We escaped to the Shenandoah. Tent pitched by a creek. Stars pricking the sky like promises. Hiking Old Rag. Sheer drops yawning. Tested trust. Me gripping his hand at ledges. Him coaxing. We've got this. Campfire that night. Marshmallows toasting. He shared a buried secret. Therapy unearthed a letter from his bio dad, postmarked years late, apologizing for abandonment. Explains my walls, he admitted, embers glowing. I held him, whispering, "You're not him. You're mine." Intimacy followed, slow and sacred under nylon roof, bodies sinking like tides. Back in the city, conflict shifted external. Boeing's merger rumors swirled, threatening my remote setup. Calls with execs turned tense. DC, we need you on site. Jim, panic spiked. Return to Seattle solo? Fracture the life we'd built? David rallied, drafting emails to HR on labor rights. His policy brain a weapon. Telework's the future, fight it. But boardroom politics ground slow. Stress manifesting in migraines. My temper fraying over smalls. Forgotten laundry. His late texts. High drama crested in August. A hurricane barreling up the coast. Idalia's remnants flooding streets. Power grids failing. We hunkered in the apartment. Candles flickering. Board games resurrected. But mid-scrabble, my phone rang on. Voice quavering from Bellevue. "Jimmy, flood's here too. House is underwater. Can you?" Heart lurched, her alone. Rose bushes drowning. David grabbed keys. Road trip. Now, I-95 crawled. Detours endless. But we made it by dawn. Waiters sloshing through muck. Salvaging photo albums sodden with memories. Mom hugged us fierce. Tears mixing rain, my boys. Wouldn't have it other way. That crisis bonded us tighter to family. Mom thawing fully, invites to brunches. Questions about grandkids via adoption. Her acceptance a bomb. Seattle's cleanup mirrored ours, sorting Sarah's heirlooms. Donating to queer youth shelters. Turning loss to legacy. Back in D.C., renewed vigor, I negotiated a hybrid role. Quarterly Everett stints, David eyed a promotion. His Bay work yielding policy wins. Autumn painted the Potomac gold. Harvest festivals in nearby farms offering hay rides and cider. But the unexpected gut punch arrived November, a call from Tyler. Sober now. Seeking amends. I was an ass. That podcast, inspired by how you handled your truth. Congrats. Man, David hesitated, then invited him to coffee, neutral ground, me tagging as husband. Tyler arrived humbled. Tales of rehab and reflection. No agenda but peace. You two? Goals. Jealousy's echo faded. Instead, closure healed old wounds. Tyler's not a bridge to past selves. Holiday season glittered. Hanukkah candles, David's half-Jewish heritage, mingling with Christmas tree baubles. We flew west for Christmas. Mom's table groaning with lax and prime rib. Brother's apology over eggnog. I was ignorant. Happy for you. New Year's in Times Square via TV. But our real countdown was private. Rooftop toast. City sprawling. Rings clinking. To us, David said. Unstunned. Unbroken. Winter wrapped gentle. Snow blanketing the mall like forgiveness. David's grant funded a youth program. LGBTQ plus climate activists. Echoing his passions. I mentored Boeing interns remotely, sharing stories of resilience. Doubts? They whisper still. Age gaps in mirrors. Societal side eyes at brunches, but louder sings our rhythm. Morning coffees intertwined. Evening walks hand in hand. The romance deepened in quiet revolutions. David's poem, scribbled on EPA memo. Read aloud by firelight. My unexpected harbor. Mine, a playlist of Springsteen ballads. Cued for drives. We're human, flawed, fierce, but in the weave of conflicts conquered. Betrayals buried. We've crafted a tapestry uniquely ours. Stunned? Once. Now, profoundly awake. Awake. Yes, but life's not linear. It loops. Testing resolutions with fresh tempests. Spring 2027 bloomed treacherous. David's program launching amid backlash, conservative outlets decrying woke indoctrination, op-eds twisting his work into culture war fodder. Protests erupted outside EPA headquarters. Signs scrawled, "Groomers out," homophobic while aimed at the queer-led initiative. David brushed it off publicly. Pressers polished. But home unraveled him, pacing at 2 a.m., voice cracking. "Am I poison? For the kids we serve." I held him, rage simmering at the trolls, the system that weaponized love. My response? Action. I rallied Boeing contacts, corporate sponsors for the program, diversity grants funneled discreetly. "We're in this," I told him, drafting donor pitches over Dawn bagels. But the toll mounted, death threats via anonymous mail. His sleep fractured, my protectiveness bordering paranoia, escorting him to metro stops, scanning crowds. Carla urged boundaries, advocacy, not armor. Yet one night, post-threat spike. He snapped, "I don't need saving. James, this is my fight." Hurt ricocheted me, the older one, reduced to helicopter. Then let me fight beside, not behind. Truce sealed with takeout shawarma. Laughter reclaiming the couch. Summer sweltered. Fieldwork pulling David to Alaska, glaciers calving. Youth camps on tribal lands. Solo again. I dove into community, volunteering at a DC food bank. Striking chats with trans elders over canned goods. Their stories echoing our grit. A letter arrived mid-July. From Sarah's sister. Full reconciliation. An invite to her wedding anniversary vow renewal. Bring David. Time to celebrate love. All kinds. We flew west. Nerves jangling. But the ceremony on Whidbey Island. Vows under arbors. Fairy horns toasting. Mended fractures. Her toast. To found families. Stronger than blood. David's hand squeezed mine under the table. Tears unspoken. Fall brought harvest, but also harvest of hard-won peace. David's program thrived. Metrics soaring, kids empowered. Policies shifted. My Boeing hybrid stabilized. A Seattle Pi Day Terra for visits. Mom's guest room a haven. Yet intimacy waned under stress. Touches turned perfunctory. Dates to Netflix binges. We're roommates. I joked one October Eve, but truth stung. Therapy pivot. Sensate focus exercises. Carla's homework. Non-sexual caresses. Eye-gazing till discomfort bloomed trust. Rediscovery sparked. Massages evolving to whispers. Vulnerability's thrill reigniting spark. The unforeseen crescendo crashed November, my health scare. Routine checkup flagged irregular heartbeat. EKG leading to ablation consult. Stress-related, the cardiologist said, but fear gripped. Arrhythmia like Sarah's chemo echoes. Mortality shadow. David canceled fieldwork. Bedside vigil in Georgetown's sterile glow. His hand cool on my fevered brow. Not losing you, he vowed. Voice fierce. Surgery loomed, minimally invasive. But risks loomed. Pre-op. In pre-dawn hush. He confessed deeper. These years. You've healed me. From dad's ghost. Mom's loss. Don't leave me half-mended. Tears mingled. My promise. We're endgame. Procedure succeeded. A blip, narcotics haze. David's face first sight upon waking. Grinning through tears. Recovery bonded us visceral. Him spooning soup. Me journaling gratitudes, his laugh lines. Calloused hands from paddles. Near-death clarity, I quipped, but it reshaped, prioritizing presence. Weekend getaways to Rehoboth Beach. Boardwalks creaking under bare feet. Oceans roar drowning doubts. Winter solstice gifted reflection. Hanukkah menorah flickered. Sufganiat dusted sugar sweet. Christmas cards from Seattle allies. Rainbow wreaths enclosed. New Year's. We hiked Rock Park. Resolutions etched in frost. More adventures. Less armor. Life looped kinder. David's book deal on queer ecology. My TEDx talk on corporate allyship. Shared stages amplifying voices. Yet the profound stun revisited in spring's thaw. David's fertility quest. Over brunch in Easter Market. Beignet crumbling. He broached. Kids? Surrogacy. Adoption. Whatever. With you. Shock rippled me. Dad again? At 48. Diapers and tantrums? But vision bloomed. A child with his curls. My jaw. Raised in love spectrum. Consults followed. Agencies. Ethics unpacked in Carla's office. Your story's a gift, she said. Model resilience. Challenges mounted, costs staggering. Biological hurdles, my age. His travel. A failed match gutted us, surrogate backing out. Grief echoing Sarah's. Again, David raged. Punching pillows. I anchored. Not loss, redirection. Pivot to foster adopt. Training sessions raw with hypotheticals. First placement, a 12-year-old trans boy. Alex, wide-eyed from group home shuffle. Tentative dinners, pasta Alfredo. Board games, blossom trust. Alex's sketches of superheroes. David's ecology lessons. My Boeing model's whirring. Parenting's drama unfolded. School bullies targeting Alex's flags. PDA whispers about alternative dads. We advocated. Meetings with principals. Ally trainings funded by David's network. One night, post-meltdown, Alex curled between us. You guys. You're real. Our yes. Tear-choked. Sealed family. Years cascade, Alex thriving. High school debates on climate. David's tenure track offer back west. UW reversal. Full circle. We relocate. Seattle's arms open. Mom doting on grandkid. House on Queen and refreshed. Garage now Alex's workshop. Conflicts? Eternal. Teen angst. Career pulls, but woven with joys. Pride floats we build. Alex's prom with his boyfriend. Our silver anniversary, vow renewal on Alki. Waves lapping as Sarah's ashes once did. The original stun? That kiss. Unexpected catalyst. Now, at 52, David at 34, Alex 16, I reflect. Love's not absence of storm, but dancing in rain. Phantoms of betrayal. Misunderstandings, they forge depth. We're human tapestry. LGBTQ+. Blended. Unbroken. In sunset hikes. Hands linked. Puget Sound shimmering. I know. Stunned into grace. We've authored our epic. And it's beautiful.